Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin with humanitarian issues in Kenya, where ministers are giving up their salaries for a month in a show of solidarity with people affected by the ongoing drought in parts of the country. A statement from the presidency says the cabinet agreed that the funds collected from all members of the cabinet will contribute to state interventions to support those affected. It also notes the unacceptability of high prices of the staple food maize and pledged market support for farmers harvesting their crop. A minister had earlier indicated that the country would be importing millions of tons of maize, but the cabinet noted that this will now be done in February next year to give the farmers priority to sell their products. Millions of Kenyans are currently facing hunger amid the ongoing drought and are in dire need of food aid. Let's bring in Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati, who joins us from Nairobi. Hello, Cyrus.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So let's begin. This show of support by ministers in Kenya to drought-affected persons, how surprising is this?
Well, it was right. The deputy president of the Republic of Kenya is making an appeal to Kenyans to donate the money. So everyone was expecting that the government at large will join in the kind of the pool to raise the money for people affected by the drought. It's a big issue because almost 6.4 million Kenyans are affected by this problem. And they are making an appeal even internationally for bodies, including the UN, to join and help the country at large.
So last week, the government announced a funds drive for Kenyans to donate to victims of the drought, including through a mobile money platform. Tell us how that is coming along.
Well, there's a lot of skepticism from Kenyans at large. Kenyans are questioning the whole process because they're saying the kind of extravagance being witnessed in government at large is questionable. And they're saying the government's making an appeal for such funds when they know the kind of money they're spending. The pay bill they launched, which was announced this week, is so far attracting much attention from corporate organizations, which are sending their money there. But then some Kenyans are questioning the seriousness of the government in terms of fighting or rather helping those who are affected by the drought. There's a lot of people who are welcoming it, there are those who are doubting it. So it's a 50-50 situation here and there. We don't see it gaining much attention towards required to do that.
Is there a body or a committee to oversee the donations and to ensure that these actually reach those in need?
Actually, there's a body which was launched early this week. It's led by chief executive officers of banks and corporate organizations in the country. This was meant to kind of show the country at large that this is a serious body which is coordinating the whole affair. The fact that they appointed the head of Safaricom communication group to lead the body or the fund drive is a way of attracting much attention to the issue, and it's a form of credibility they wanted to put into this body. So far, they say today they are doing well, but it's a wait and see situation to see what happens next.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Cyrus, thank you for your thoughts and for sharing more detail on the situation in Kenya.
Thank you so much.
Let's move on to other stories. The Speaker of South Africa's Parliament has received a report from a panel tasked with establishing whether or not President Cyril Ramaphosa should face impeachment for allegedly covering up a crime. The panel investigated the circumstances around an alleged cover-up of a robbery that took place at his private farm back in February 2020. At a televised event earlier today, the panel handed over its report to the Speaker of Parliament, Nosiviwe Mapisa Nkakula. It's expected to be made public this weekend. While President Ramaphosa denies any wrongdoing, he previously pledged his full cooperation to the investigation and said he was happy to be held accountable. Staying in South Africa, the African National Congress and its alliance partners, the South African Communist Party and Congress of South African Trade Unions, have held a protest in Pretoria against the parole of the man who killed anti-apartheid struggle icon Chris Hani in 1993. 69-year-old Janusz Wallace, a Polish immigrant, shot and killed Chris Hani and was sentenced to life imprisonment. He has been in prison for nearly 3 decades, and a week ago, the Apex Court ordered that he be released on parole by no later than today. The decision by the Constitutional Court outraged members of the Hani family, the ruling ANC, and other social political groups. Just yesterday, the 69-year-old was stabbed by a fellow inmate and is currently receiving medical attention. The person who attacked him will be charged. We spoke to one of the ANC leaders at the protest outside the maximum security facility where Wallace is being held.
This Hani cannot be killed twice. Every man die once. So we are angered as the people of South Africa about the decision of the Concord, which is the higher apex court in South Africa, that has resolved that Janusz Wallace, who brutally murdered our leader Chris Hani in 1993, must now be a free man. We think this decision is unjust, is unfair, and we respect the rule of law. We have to express our anger through this peaceful march that we had here today.
But what would you like to see done? Already Home Affairs has given that special condition for him to remain in the country to serve his parole. What would you like to see done?
He must rot in jail. That's one thing. The alternative to that is him actually telling us the truth. Why did he kill Chris Hani? Then all of us will be at peace. You can imagine how the family is feeling after all these things. So it will be important that he tells us the truth, or he must remain here in jail. We think it's unjustifiable for him to be out of jail.
But his lawyer was saying that the man who owned the gun, Clive W. Lewis, that all the others are conspiracy theories. If W. Lewis claims...
That's why we are concentrating on the truth. Who killed Chris Hani? Why? Because we believe that there is no white Polish who can just come from Poland and shoot our leaders. There must have been something, and even he died very arrogantly. He was, there was no remorse in his side. So we can only say that it's unfortunate what is happening, but it's important that as we draw closer to 30th anniversary since the passing of Chris Hani, we must be firm that Chris Hani was our leader. You saw people came out in numbers here to support, to ensure that we can show that we have not forgotten about our leader, Chris Hani.
Finally, just your reaction on the stabbing incident last time.
Well, that's a minor incident. This man murdered our leader.
Away from South Africa, the United States says it has serious doubts about the credibility of Equatorial Guinea's election results that saw the world's longest-serving president continue his 43-year rule. U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price says, given the scale of irregularities observed and the announced results given the ruling party, PDGE, 94.9% of the vote, we have serious doubts about the credibility of the results. It said they were credible allegations of significant election-related irregularities, including documented instances of fraud, intimidation, and coercion. According to election officers, 80-year-old Teodoro Mbasogo secured almost 95% of votes. The president, who has a strong grip on the oil-rich Central African nation, seized power in 1979 after a military takeover and has survived several coup attempts since then. Staying with election matters, we're back here in Nigeria. Without a voter card, you will not be allowed to vote in any election. And that's the warning coming from the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, who was responding to a misleading information in circulation about the possibility of voting without a permanent voter's card. Professor Mahmoud said the position of the law is clear on the matter, so there's no room for anything to the contrary. Well, it's on that premise that the students and youths in Port Harcourt, the capital of Rivers State in South Nigeria, have been encouraged to get their permanent voter cards and participate actively in the 2023 general elections. This formed the central theme of several rallies. The events put together by the Independent National Electoral Commission and the Stakeholders Democracy Network are holding at 3 major university campuses in the metropolis.
The Abuja Bus Park at the University of Port Harcourt is packed full with students and youths drawn to the music and other activities on stage. Amidst the fun, there are intermittent breaks during which the INEC officials pass their message, assuring the crowd that their PVCs are ready for collection and that the beavers machines will be used during the elections.
You are youth that have hope. Go for your PVC. Go for your permanent voter's card. That is why I said we came in peace. We are not partisan.
We have embraced what? The beavers machine. So we use beavers to do it to take do election. We are saying no to rigging. Say no to rigging. INEC will not count your prayer points. Come and cast your vote. Because of what? Your vote must count. Thank you.
Speaking to Channels Television on the sidelines of the event, some of the organizers explained the importance of getting the youths involved in the electioneering process.
What we're currently doing in collaboration with INEC is to sensitize the youth demographic about the PVC, the permanent voters card collection.
Everything about what we are doing in this country starts with the youth, and this is the right place and right time to catch them, to participate, to do what they have to do by getting their PVCs. It's very crucial because that is the only way we can have our voices heard and cause the change that we want to have in this country.
The crowd is thrown into a frenzy when a popular social media comedian, Oga Sabinus, takes to the stage. He encourages them to get their PVCs, even as some who have theirs in the crowd are immediately rewarded by the comedian.
One of the messages we are trying to pass across is the message about the PVC collection also, and the initiative from the INEC to tell people that the election coming up is going to be free and fair. All we need from the citizens is just for you to go get your PVC and on that day come out fully to vote.
Some of the highlights of the event include dance competitions and gift presentations.
Well, drawing people out to cast their vote and perform their civic responsibilities. Well, still ahead on the program. Artists in Sudan preserve traditional matriotic jewelry against cheaper imports. That's in a moment. Welcome back. Somalia has launched its first ever international investment conference with the aim of unlocking sectoral investments to accelerate political and economic growth. The conference is organized by the Federal Ministry of Planning, Investment and Economic Development in partnership with the private sector and development partners, and is supported by the United Nations in Somalia.
Leaders of the government of Somalia, its international partners and a cross-section of Somalis gathered in the capital Mogadishu for the country's first international investment conference, an opportunity for the world to appreciate the progress being made by Somalia on the political and economic front.
The world has been supporting Somalia in the last 3 decades in terms of humanitarian. Here today, in front of you, I'm appealing the world at large. Help Somalia in investment so that Somalia will be free from the scourge of poverty, which cascades a lot of other problems. Among them is the extremism.
President Mahmoud highlights the effort of his government to create a favorable investment environment to attract foreign direct investment.
Having a good economy, reducing the poverty level is the ultimate goal of the Somali people and Somali government in the path of reaching a prosperous country. I cannot overstate the importance of foreign direct investment in Somalia's economic growth strategy. FDI creates jobs, increases the country's export, and widens tax base and revenue for the state.
Deputy Special Representative of the UN Secretary-General to Somalia, Adam Abdel Muller, noted that the investment conference was in line with the objectives of the United Nations.
Somalia has a vast potential for investment, which needs to be leveraged and built upon political stability and the rule of law. The efforts to improve the business environment will require simpler business formation and registration processes and a more streamlined licensing system. Government leadership and collaboration with the private sector is absolutely fundamental and crucial. We believe that together with its partners, including the United Nations, Somalia will be able to leapfrog to a brighter future very soon.
Prime Minister of Somalia Hamza Abdi Bare expresses the government's commitment to implement legislative, economic and security reforms to enhance the ease of doing business and create a favorable investment climate.
We have established the requisite legal and institutional arrangements to save you better. The Federal Republic of Somalia enacted and passed the Foreign Investment Law in 2015 and established the Foreign Investment Board as the highest investment policy-making body in the country. This law guarantees that the treatment of foreign investors is equal to that given to domestic investors.
With peace and stability returning to Somalia, the country is starting to enjoy international banking and financial services that can link the country to the global financial networks for ease of doing business and also support the growth of local industries.
Meanwhile, humanitarian agencies say acute malnutrition is surging among children displaced by drought and conflict in a part of central Somalia and is teetering on the edge of famine. The United Nations warned at the beginning of September that 2 districts were projected to face famine between October and December, with more than 500,000 children in Somalia at risk of dying from malnutrition.
Violence that has flared up in Somalia amid severe drought is increasingly causing strain for hospitals. The number of mass casualty incidents related to the armed conflict have increased by 30%, as recorded by 4 major hospitals supported by the International Committee of the Red Cross. Dr. Abdul Qadir Haji Malim, a surgeon at Medina Hospital, had to continue life-saving surgery despite the dangers.
We were finishing a surgery when we heard a huge explosion. The entire operating room shook. We knew it was an explosion and we would receive a high number of casualties.
Medina Hospital, located in the heart of Somalia's capital, handles a considerable share of the reported emergencies. The facility is also a referral center and the country's de facto war hospital.
We split in 2 teams. One team would categorize the patients. Another team would handle the surgeries. Honestly, what we saw is hard to imagine.
At the same time, as the country continues to battle the harsh drought conditions, many children are suffering from malnutrition. Bay Regional Hospital, which runs a stabilization center to treat critical cases of malnutrition, is seeing an almost 3-fold increase in the number of children admitted in the hospital. So far this year, the 4 main hospitals in the country have treated over 2,000 patients with conflict-related injuries between January and October this year.
Well, over in Sudan, where women have so much love for art and jewelry, but the country is now facing economic crisis which affects jewelry production. But a Sudanese artist is not looking back as she stirs hard to preserve the traditional meriotic pieces against cheaper imports. Take a listen.
In the jewelry market in Omdurman, artists skillfully shape metals with earrings, necklaces and bracelets with traditional motifs from the Asian culture. As a traditional feature in weddings and special events, handcrafted Sudanese jewelry is now facing a challenge due to the dire economic situation and an influx of imported products. In addition, there's a decline in the number of people who master the craft. Interior designer and owner of Nasireen Omar Gallery, Suleiman Koko, says the crushing economic situation is not only discouraging people from buying jewelry, but moves them to melt what they already own for the value of the metal.
Some people melt jewelry pieces to keep the value of the gold or the silver it's made of, so jewelry loses its value as heritage and becomes raw gold and silver. The economic situation has affected jewelry making. Also, modernity. Sometimes in weddings you find brides wearing Indian or Moroccan attire. Why don't we maintain our traditional attire and add some modern touches to it?
The designer, who also works on collecting unique pieces from across the country to build a directory of heritage, additionally says imported items are also affecting the craft.
The Boba Moon earring is currently being made outside Sudan and is imported to Sudan, packaged and sold in the wholesale market. This is our heritage, taken and manufactured in a cheap and uncostly way, and is being circulated because it's not expensive.
Coco says her mission is to preserve the culture and encourage other designers as well as artists and researchers to update it with modern touches to make it more appealing for future generations. The Asian culture, which thrived on the east bank of the Nile, now the northeast of Khartoum, was known for its fine metalwork and artifacts.
That's Network Africa today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.